Hey everyone, my name is Andy Barninger. I'm here with Myotrend to bring you a red quinoa over spaghetti squash. Let's get started. So to begin, we've already preheated our oven to 415 degrees. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to prep our spaghetti squash. So to begin, what you want to do with this is, since it's a harder vegetable, what you're going to do is you're actually going to cut the sides off first. Set those to the side, and then you're going to set it up one end and cut down the middle. And as you can see, the inside has some seeds and what we call normally pith. Pith is just kind of like the fibrous material on the inside of the squash. So to pull them out, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a spoon and just scrape on the inside. And this is going to pull everything out. We're actually going to do it to both sides. And to normally make this easier, we would put it in a bowl so that the seeds don't go everywhere. So after that's done, we're going to clean up our cutting board and move on to the next step. So for our next step, what we're going to do is we're actually going to line a sheet pan with aluminum foil. So our sheet pan here. We're going to take our squash, set it on the sheet pan. Just as easy as that. Grab some olive oil. We're going to use about half a tablespoon of olive oil on this whole thing. Just sprinkle it over. Next, you're going to grab about a quarter teaspoon of salt. So now that our squash is coated with some olive oil with some salt, we're going to pop it in the oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. So now that our squash is in the oven, we're going to prep the rest of our ingredients, which would be our vegetables. The first is going to be a globe tomato. And for this one, we're just going to do a quick chop of it. So to do this, I normally chop it into quarters. And then I'll remove some of the inside just because it's a lot of liquid. And with these tomatoes, what we're going to do is actually just do a quick chop of them. So that we have them into slices, we're just going to grab a little bunch of them, turn them to the side. Now that we have our tomatoes prepped, we're going to throw them into a bowl. Set them off to the side, and now we're going to move on to our red onion. So the next step is going to be to prep our red onion, and for this recipe we're using about a quarter cup of red onion. So this is about a medium-sized red onion, and we're going to use about an eighth to a quarter of it. So to begin, you actually want to cut the top off. The top is the piece that looks like it has kind of little hair on top. The root also looks like it has hair, but it's more meaty. You can feel the root on the bottom. We want to leave that intact because it makes the actual chopping of the onion a lot easier. So we have to set that to the side. And then you have this skin around the onion. I found that the best way to actually remove that skin is to take the end of a knife. If you don't want to use a chef's knife because it's large, you can use a paring knife or a smaller knife to actually just run down the side of the knife, the onion. And what that does, it gives you a good place to pull away any excess. And now you have a clean onion to work with. And since we have this, it's kind of a globe shape, what we want to do is we actually want to cut it in half. Set one half to the side. And like I said, we're using about a quarter cup, so this will be about a quarter of this onion. So what we can do, if you can see, what I'm doing is I'm actually not cutting through the onion completely. can see all that's still intact, and that's just because what I want to do now is to cut that piece off. And as you can see, it still has the root end intact. So this makes cutting the onion a lot easier, because now I can, instead of having it vertically towards me, I can turn it horizontally. And just do a quick slice down the side. And now I have my smaller sized pieces of onion. These are still a little bit bigger than what I would like. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a quick chop through them. And right there is our 1/4 cup of onion. So place that in a bowl and set it to the side. So moving on to our final ingredient, or final vegetable that we're going to prep, we're actually going to use spinach. So for the spinach, I'm just going to pop this open. I'm going to grab about a nice handful of spinach. So that would be, if you would weigh that out, that'd be about 2 cups. And this isn't a step that you necessarily need to do, but it makes your final product a lot better. It's kind of called stemming the spinach. So you're just pulling this stem off, because the stem is very meaty, it's very rooty. So pulling it off makes your final product less, I'll say, chewy in the end, because you've removed this fibrous, meaty stem from the spinach. So after we have removed the stems from the spinach, we're going to take our knife and do a quick chop over them. Set this in a bowl. So now that we have all of our vegetables prepped, we're actually going to move over to the oven to cook our vegetables and start our quinoa. So grab a saucepan and meet me over here. So when you've preheated your pan over about a medium heat, we're actually going to add in some olive oil. And for this, we're adding about half a tablespoon of olive oil. So now that we've had our olive oil in our pan and we've let it come up to temperature for about a minute or two, we're going to add our red onion. I'm going to make sure that onion is tossed around in the olive oil nicely. And then I'm just going to let it chill for about 2 to 3 minutes, just to let it saute and get some caramelization on the outside of the onion itself. And then we're going to move on to our next step. So after the red onion has cooked for about 2 to 3 minutes, we're going to add in our tomato. So we want to make sure that we spin that around a little bit, just to get the tomato nicely coated in the olive oil and kind of mixed in with the onion. And since the tomato is more of a water-dense fruit, what we want to do is we want to cook this a little bit longer, stirring frequently about every minute to 2 minutes, and we're going to cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes. So after we've cooked those tomatoes down for about 3 to 4 minutes, we're going to add our final vegetable, which is our spinach. So moving this spinach into the pan. And similar to everything else, we're going to want to mix this around. For the spinach, you're going to want to use like a spoon or maybe a fork, because it doesn't really turn well with the tomatoes and the onions. So now that our onion, spinach, and tomato are in our pan, we're going to turn the heat down to about a medium low. Then we're going to run over and grab the rest of our ingredients, which would be our quinoa, our flaxseed, and our chia seed. So after our spinach, tomato, and onions have cooked down, for a total of about 7 or 8 minutes now, we're going to add in our actual quinoa, our flax, our chia, and then our water. So to do this, really simple, you're just taking your quinoa, just pouring it into the pan. This is a cup of quinoa. So remember, 1 cup of quinoa. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. This is ground flaxseed. And just 1 tablespoon of chia seed. Now once all of our seeds and our quinoa are in the pan, we're just going to give it a quick stir just to coat everything in the oil that's still in there, to get it evenly mixed with the vegetables. So once that's evenly mixed, evenly homogenized, we're actually just going to let it chill in the pan over about a medium heat for about 3 to 4 minutes. And what this is going to do, it's actually going to toast all of the quinoa and the nut and the seeds that were thrown in there. It's going to give a nice aromatic smell and a nice aromatic flavor to the quinoa dish. So after that's done, we're going to add our water and then throw it in the oven and let it cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. So now that our quinoa has toasted for about 3 to 4 minutes, we're going to add our water. And now this pan is very, very hot. So when you add the water, it will steam a lot. So what you can do is grab the lid that fits the pan, or really any lid. And what I'm going to do here is grab our water. This is about 2 1/4 cups of water. Just so it doesn't steam as much. And next, you're just going to stir the water in so everything's evenly mixed. And then we're going to add 2 final things. So in this, we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika, or one of my favorite spices. So once everything's in our pan, what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn our heat up so the water in the pan starts boiling. When that's beginning to boil, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take our lid and cover it, then reduce that heat down to a simmer and let it cook for about 8 to 12 minutes. So now that our squash is cooked, we're actually going to grab it out of the oven and then prep it before our quinoa is finished. So once you get back to your cutting board, you're going to want to have some tongs, because the squash have some liquid pooling in the bottom of them, and you don't want that hot liquid pouring on you. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab these tongs and just pour the liquid out. Set our sheet pan off to the side, and we're actually going to let these chill for about 5 minutes just to cool down. And similar to the beginning when we were actually pulling the seeds out, we're going to use the spoon to actually pull the meat out of the inside of the squash and remove the skin. So after our spaghetti squash is cooled for a little bit, what you want to do is we're going to grab a bowl. We're going to grab a spoon. We're actually going to just pull the inside of the spaghetti squash out. And you do want to make sure that this is very cool before you do this, because the spaghetti squash is extremely hot after it's been roasting in the oven. And that's mainly because squash is mainly water, so we have all that water trapped inside the squash that has essentially just been boiling. So once that's all out, do the next one. Set this off to the side. We're going to grab our quinoa, and then we're going to finish this dish, and we're going to plate it, and we're going to try it. So once our quinoa is done, and there should be very, very little water in this pan, and to the taste, the quinoa should have a crunch to it, but it shouldn't be almost like you're biting into, let's say, granola. It should be more of you're biting into almost pasta. So to plate this, what we're going to do, set this down here, grab our plate. We're going to start with some spaghetti squash at the bottom. Remember, this serves 4 people, so we're doing about a cup of spaghetti squash. Next, we're actually going to grab our quinoa, and we're going to do about half a cup of the quinoa, half to 1 cup of the quinoa. And that's our final dish. Nice, fresh, aromatic flavors. This is really kind of a fall dish. but it's great for any time of the year. It's really macro friendly. You have a lot of good fats in there from the chia seed and the flax seed. You have a lot of ALA, omega-3 fatty acids. So overall, this dish well balanced, lower in the carb, higher in the protein with the quinoa. So it's a great macro friendly dish that you can add to your diet. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. My name is Andy Barninger. You can find me at The Performance Chef. Stay tuned for more content from Myotrend.